And we are back for part 7 of the Play and Talk here, playing Final Fantasy 2, listening to some hot news. It's the same channel that we had on before, Agenda Free TV. Right now I'm going to see what there's guys is going to recap today's big big news events of the day or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Hear what he has to say. Uh, right now I'm back in the town of Byron. As you see, I'm now a Palladian. I lost the Dark Knight role, and now I'm gonna go see what we got to do here. Fucking around, waste more time. All right, let's see what fucker says. Just gonna explore this town that we just got back here in the town of Byron. See what about I got to do and what's going on here. Got another quest ahead of me. Let's go find out what it is. What's this guy bitching at his mods already? Uh, See, this is the. God, shut up. Alright, this is the port I use to go uh, from this one village over to the other. I'm gonna go see if I can actually get out of here, see what's available. Back in Mesita. And the only way that basically here in Mesita, you're kind of trapped on the island. So the only way off is to go back through this tunnel, back to the town of Byron. And from there, see what they got for me. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know what the hell this guy's bitching about tonight. You know, you play this game, you see these little fun barrel things laying around these lands. Sometimes they have like items inside you can always check out. I don't know if you notice on some of the channels, say on a live stream, and you go into chat, your name is no longer your screen name. It's whatever like your handle is, like at whatever. Like for instance, my screen name's JT, but my handle's at JT the Watcher, and so that's what I think this guy's talking about. No, it's not a mistake. Oh shit! Look what I found. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, come on. That twin thing fucking works great, but it sucks up so much magic. Yeah, this guy used to be part of the party before, but lost him in the whirlpool earlier in the game. Oh, what? I gotta fight Lady K? What the fuck? No, you don't have a new name. It's your fucking username. People are just dumb. Oh, oh shit. They just fucked us up. Oh man, what? Look at what I in. I'll forgive you. uh, oh well. So now what? I got 5 people now.
you have to have a parent be a citizen or a legal permanent resident to have the baby be a citizen automatically by being born on American soil. They don't rule on the constitutionality of that. What the Supreme Court said today is the injunctions that federal judges issued, district court judges, I believe, that said, hey, this policy, this new policy declared by President Trump, it cannot be applied across the country. The Supreme Court today said, like, no, district judges, you don't have the power to say that. You don't have the power, according to the Constitution, the Supreme Court said, according to U.S. law, I guess Constitution plus U.S. law, that based on top of the Constitution. Either way, the Supreme Court said, district judges, you do not have the legal power to just say President Trump's order cannot apply anywhere in the country, and to anybody. And I believe what the focus is they said, like, you can only grant relief to the parties to the actual lawsuit. So somebody filed a lawsuit that these district judges ruled on. And basically, as I understand it, and I'll show you some articles here, the Supreme Court said, well, if somebody sued, somebody sued the federal government and said, hey, I'm getting hurt because of President Trump's executive order, the district judge could say, okay, well, that executive order is not going to apply to this person who sued, but they can't say it's not going to apply to anybody in the country automatically. So I know this is already sounding complex, and this is just me, like, drastically oversimplifying things, but I'm just trying to get the thing to keep in mind is that this ruling was about the power of judges to issue nationwide injunctions to stop a presidential policy from applying to anybody in the country. But also, you should know, this ruling does not stop all nationwide injunctions. It says there are certain cases in which a judge could legally issue a nationwide injunction. I know it's already getting crazy, I know, and very technical. But I mean, hopefully this gives you a bit of a sense of the complexity of the ruling, and it's not just some simple thing you can sum up in one sentence. All right. So, anyways, I'm trying to do this as simply as possible. I'm not a legal expert. I don't get the whole thing. I can't read through the Supreme Court ruling and understand most of what's there, but I'm giving you a basic idea of what's going on. So, bottom line, now, before today, there were several judges who had issued So now it looks like in some of the country, President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship can start to be enforced. But remember that executive order is still going through the courts. So as I understand it, eventually the Supreme Court might rule on that executive order and say it's constitutional or it's not constitutional. But it temporary period of time in the United States where in some of the country a child will no longer be a citizen just by being born on U.S. soil if, for example, their parents are both in the U.S. illegally. Now, just so you know, that temporary period of time, I think it only starts in 30 days, and then there could be other court rulings that make it so that
I really fucked up the sound.
Trump's executive order does not go into effect. So it's not really clear right now what's going to happen, but it's possible it's possible that for some period of time, at least, in some part of the country, President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship will go into effect. And at least in those parts of the country, a baby won't be a citizen just by virtue of being born on U.S. soil if, for example, they have two parents who are here illegally. I know this is very complex. I'm doing my best to keep it as simple as possible. But there's all these different factors and everything, and complicating circumstances.
My bad.
And also, this applies to other executive orders of President Trump. There are other policies that President Trump has tried to implement that some federal judges have issued nationwide injunctions against. Orders that said, no, this policy of President Trump cannot apply anywhere in the country to anybody. Some of those orders are now going to be seen as unconstitutional. So there might be other policies of President Trump that similarly can apply in some parts of the country, whereas before today, there was a judge's order that said they can't apply anywhere. Although those might be temporary too, because they might be ultimately struck down by the courts as unconstitutional. Wow, this is complex. I am trying to make this as simple as possible, and it's still really complex. I'm going to show you a couple articles on this. We're going to take comments on it, but that's what this is about, is the ability of judges to issue nationwide injunctions against a presidential policy. I think it's just against presidential policies, but I might be wrong about that too. So I'm doing my best. Okay. And I do want to repeat this. President Biden also had a number of policies where judges issued nationwide injunctions against stopping his policies. So this will not just impact President Trump. It will not just impact judges. It doesn't just impact judges' ability to issue nationwide injunctions against President Trump's policies. It'll make it harder for federal judges to issue a nationwide injunction against a future Democratic president. So the next Democratic president, there will be cases where judges can no longer issue a nationwide injunction against their new policy that they would have been able to before today. So keep that in mind as well. Wow. There's a lot going on with this. But anyways, we're gonna do it. We're gonna power through. We're gonna cover it. We will show you what President Trump had to say about this a little later. Okay, so let's get into it. I have some articles here for you that'll hopefully make things a little more clear, talking about what the impact of this will be. But you can see this right here. Supreme Court limits nationwide injunctions, but fate of Trump birthright citizenship order unclear. Whew. All right, let me take a few comments here. First of all, I got to say a couple thank yous. Then I'm going to take a couple comments, and then we'll get into the article. Let's see. I owe a couple thank yous here, though. Thank you to Analog Alien 11. Thanks for your support. Also, man, and all these, a lot of the names on YouTube today are different because YouTube, I think, has a little glitch where the names have been changed. So Beam Me Up, thank you. Oh, Beam Me Up says you can edit your new handle name on YouTube in your profile. So is my name still the same? Let's see. If I say test in the YouTube chat, what does my name come up as? Oh, it's still Agenda Free TV. But yeah, one of our viewers said if YouTube is displaying the incorrect name, you can edit it in your profile. I'm not sure about that, but anyways, you can look into that if you like. Thank you, Nikki Wadley. Thank you, Nikki, for being a member. Blue Jays. Nikki says anchor babies are not in the Constitution. To be clear, this ruling today is not on the constitutional merits of President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order. The court system will ultimately issue a ruling on that, but that is not, or a final ruling. That was not the topic today. I didn't say Nikki was saying it was. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Blue Jay 61, our member, Marshmallow, Lover 130I, Carolyn P, 1721, Carolyn says, YouTube is showing usernames instead of display names. Cal Folsom, our member. Justin King, thanks for your support. All right. I want to take a few comments. Hold on a second here. Hold on a moment here. Yeah, a lot of these names are really messed up. Okay. Our viewer, Melissa Terry, thinks it will hurt children not being able to get food stamps and health care. Now, it remains to be seen how much impact this is going to have. Will there be, at least temporarily, children who are born in the U.S. who before today would have been considered citizens, but now at least temporarily will not be considered citizens? Although it's possible that in the future they would be considered citizens if President Trump's executive order is declared unconstitutional ultimately. It's a confusing situation. Let's see here. Our viewer, I thinks it's a great victory for the president. Robert Law thinks Trump is relying on...
The channel is called Agenda Free TV. And this is a guy who just runs his own channel and does like 12-hour streams of him just going over like the daily news and shit.
Then you also could have a situation, at least temporarily, where a child born to two parents who are here illegally is a citizen if they are born in one state, but not a citizen if they are born in another state, which seems like it might be a confusing, difficult thing. That is also ultimately, I believe the Supreme Court would feel a need to rule on the actual executive order and have a single policy for all 50 states. But will there be a temporary period of time where it's different in different states? Eliza Jane says, this has been very confusing to me. You're not the only one. Okay, let's check this out. Let's get into some of the articles. We'll talk about this. I'm going to show you what President Trump had to say about this. I want to talk about some of the details first, but then we'll show you President Trump did a whole press conference on this. Okay, so AP says a united conservative majority of the Supreme Court ruled today that federal judges lack the authority to grant nationwide injunctions. In certain cases, by the way, not all nationwide injunctions, I believe, in certain cases. But that decision left unclear whether President Trump's restrictions on birthright citizenship could soon take effect in parts of the country. Now, I'm going to skip down here because this is an important paragraph to know what's going on. The justices agreed with the Trump administration, as well as President Biden's Democratic administration before it, that judges are overreaching by issuing orders that apply to everyone instead of just the parties before the court. Judges have issued more than 40 such nationwide injunctions since Trump took office for his second term in January. So the idea is the president issues an executive order. Somebody who feels like they're harmed by it, somebody, a person or institution or a group of people or institutions, they file a lawsuit and they say, well, this executive order is unconstitutional, it's harming me. So what in such a case, I believe what the ruling said today is, if the district court judge finds that yes, the executive order is unconstitutional, they can grant relief to the person or people or entities that filed the lawsuit, but they can't just say, well, now everybody in the country gets relief. This doesn't apply to anybody in the country. So we'll get into this some more. This outcome represented a victory for Trump, says AP, who has complained about judges throwing up obstacles to his agenda. Nationwide or universal injunctions had emerged on as an important check on Trump's efforts to expand executive power and remake the government and a source of mounting frustration to him and his allies. But the court left open the possibility that Trump's birthright citizenship changes could remain blocked nationwide. So there could be a different type of executive order, there could be a different type of nationwide injunction issued, which the court ruling today does not apply to, which blocks his order nationwide. We'll have to see if that happens. Trump's executive order would deny citizenship to U.S.-born children of people who are in the country illegally or temporarily. That's what his executive order says. That just because your child is born on U.S. soil doesn't mean the child is a citizen if the parents are here illegally or temporarily. The cases now return to lower courts where judges will have to decide how to tailor their orders to comply with the Supreme Court ruling. But enforcement of the policy can't take place for another 30 days. So this executive order by President Trump cannot be enforced for at least 30 days. Even after 30 days, it's unclear whether the court's decision could produce a confusing patchwork of rules that might differ in the 22 states that sued over the Trump order, and the rest of the country, it could be different in different states for a while. Oh my gosh. As I said before, the Supreme Court justices' majority agreed with the Trump administration, as well as President Joe Biden's Democratic administration before it, that judges are overreaching by issuing orders that apply to everyone instead of just the parties who have sued, the parties before the court. Judges have issued more than 40 such orders since Trump took office for a second term in January. Let's see. Okay. Federal courts, said Amy Coney Barrett, who wrote the decision for the majority, federal courts do not exercise general oversight of the executive branch. They resolve cases and controversies consistent with the authority Congress has given them. When a court decides that the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power too. Meaning, again, the majority said that...
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck this guy's rambling on about. But right now, I'm kind of regretting going down into these tunnels because I don't think I have enough items. And I'm kind of getting my ass kicked in every one of these little stupid battles.
Because the justices said the judges have not been given that power by the Constitution. Okay, we'll hear from President Trump later. He said the decision was amazing and a monumental victory for the Constitution. Senate Democratic leader Schumer said it's an unprecedented and terrifying step toward authoritarianism, a grave danger to our democracy, and a predictable move from this extremist MAGA court. Oh, and I'll show you a quote here from one of the dissenting judges, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, writing in dissent for the three liberal judges, called the decision nothing less than an open invitation for the government to bypass the Constitution. This is so, she said, because the administration may be able to enforce a policy even when it has been challenged and found to be unconstitutional by a lower court. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to take some more comments here. Then it gets confusing. It gets even more confusing about because the judges today didn't say federal judges. The Supreme Court today did not say there can never be a lawful nationwide injunction. They just said in certain situations, when a federal judge has previously issued a nationwide injunction, they can no longer issue that kind of nationwide injunction in that situation anymore. But there will be other nationwide injunctions that are still seen as legal, which makes this more confusing. So, for example, this paragraph is going to sound confusing. Rights groups that sued over the policy filed new court documents following the Supreme Court ruling, taking up a suggestion from Justice Brett Kavanaugh that judges still may be able to reach anyone potentially affected by the birthright citizenship order by declaring them part of a putative nationwide class. So I'm not going to start getting into these technicalities, but again, this would be a way. So what you can see here is there are people opposed to Trump's policy who are trying to use a different legal maneuver now to get a different kind of nationwide injunction that's not covered by the Supreme Court ruling today. If that's like the simplest way I can explain it. Oh my gosh, it's so complex. Oh, a couple more quick things and I'll take comments from the AP article. Birthright citizenship automatically makes anyone born in the U.S. an American citizen, including children born to mothers in the country illegally. That right was enshrined soon after the Civil War in the Constitution's 14th Amendment. In a notable Supreme Court decision, where is it here? In 1898, United States versus Wong Kim Ark, the Supreme Court held that the only children who did not automatically receive U.S. citizenship upon being born on U.S. soil were the children of diplomats who have allegiance to another government. Also, enemies present in the U.S. during hostile occupation, those born on foreign ships, and those born to members of sovereign Native American tribes. So those were the only exceptions. The Trump administration has asserted that children of non-citizens are not, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, a phrase used in the amendment, and therefore are not entitled to citizenship, but states, immigrants, and rights groups have sued to block the executive order, have accused the administration of trying to unsettle the broader understanding of birthright citizenship that has been accepted since the 14th Amendment's adoption. Okay. Wow. All right, I'm going to take some more comments here. I know this is complex. It's important, but it's complex. Let's see. Yes, the Trump administration had wanted the Supreme Court to allow Trump's plan to go into effect for everyone except the handful of people and groups that sued. Failing that, the administration argued the plan could remain blocked for now in the 22 states that sued. And again, let me take some comments on this, but
I wanted those
it's possible that starting 30 days from now, there will be
those two in the
one
back
policy
and three stronger
in part
people.
of the country about
Hopefully that
birthright
makes some sort of
citizenship,
difference.
and another policy in another part of the country about birthright citizenship. In some parts of the country, it'll be the case that anybody born on U.S. soil to even illegal parents who are in the U.S. illegally is a U.S. citizen. And in other states, if somebody is born to two non-citizens on U.S. soil, they will not automatically be a citizen. It could differ by state for a while, which I know sounds confusing, but that could end up being the case, at least temporarily. Oh my gosh, it is so complex. I'm doing my best, but I know it's complex. I'm sorry if it's very confusing. Let me take some comments from you guys. We'll have some more about this. Flog Bishop says it was that way for gay marriage till it went to the Supreme Court. So I am not a legal expert, but yes, there have been. Well, I believe it's like, I certainly am confident in saying there are past policies where there have been different policies in different states, and also different rulings about the policies in different states. But what this specifically was about today was whether the ruling today was about whether in certain cases a judge can issue an injunction saying this presidential policy cannot apply anywhere in the country. And a bunch of those type of rulings are no longer allowed anymore. But a difference here is that, let me also say this, a difference here is that, well, I don't want to say that specifically. I don't want to exceed I don't want to try to offer legal analysis that I am not qualified to give. Also, let me say this. Unlike some cases where you might have a different policy about something in different states, which for certain aspects of our lives, there are different policies in different states, whether someone is considered a citizen in certain states could present unique challenges. If whether somebody's a citizen.
Yeah, try to add the sound of the game into it.
Well, it can
just
change
so it has
in
a
different
little
states, and
more
also depends
ambiance
on
in the
on the
background and
status
whatever the
of
fuck
their
this
parents.
guy's rambling about.
Because then, for example, a state would need to know would have to ascertain the immigration status of the parents to know if the person's a citizen, which is a whole other thing. We'll talk about that shortly. Okay. Ethan Griffiths thinks the Supreme Court should have ruled on the birthright citizenship as well, so there will be no confusion on what the order does do. They have made a mess out of this. Now, I believe that could eventually happen, but they haven't. I don't believe the Supreme Court has heard those arguments at this point, and I don't believe they've taken up a case that has gotten to them about that. I'm not sure about this, but they were not in. I don't believe they've heard arguments on this. So, but your point is interesting, saying something like, well, if they're going to issue this ruling and then not rule on the actual merits of the birthright citizenship case, it does leave this period of time before they rule on because ultimately you'd think that there will be a ruling that a ruling. I would think that eventually it'll make its way to the Supreme Court and they will say this is the ruling for all the states and it'll apply to every state. But given that hasn't happened yet, you are leaving this possible period of time where it could be different in different states. And you might think that this policy just should not be one that's allowed to be different in different states. Maybe you think that. Some people do. I don't know if there was it's a good question of whether there was a method for them to issue a quick ruling on the birthright citizenship issue. That I don't know. Let's see here. Cinder Flame thinks it would bring more people to Democratic states, even if they are illegal, might not work out for Republicans. So what you're saying, Cinder Flame, is that there may be people who are here, maybe they're here temporarily, legally but temporarily, and they're going to have a baby, and they say, well, in my state I'm in now, that baby won't be legal, so I'm going to move to a state where it would be legal. And you're saying it could cause some people to move to different states if they're going to have children.
That was pretty
That's
cool.
an interesting possibility. I don't know how widespread that might be, or at least. Also, then I'm wondering, if they have the baby in one state, but then they move to another state, how does that work? Say you have a baby in a state which in that state that says that baby's. So let's say that there's two people here illegally, and they have a baby in a state which says the baby was born on U.S. soil, that's a citizen. So the baby's a citizen. But then if the baby goes to a different state, can ICE just arrest the baby in that state because they're in a different state and they're not a citizen? What settles the case as to whether the federal government can throw the person out because they're not a citizen? Does it depend on what state they were originally born in, or does it change if they move, or does that, I don't know. So, I'm just bringing up an issue, a possibility that I don't, it seems like possibly an issue to me, but I don't know. Let's see here. Let me show you something else about this. There was an FAQ about this ruling. What the Supreme Court's ruling means for birthright citizenship. Let's check this out. Oh, and when I say the state, I mean, so these are federal rulings, but the federal rulings might only apply in certain parts of the country. So I know I haven't even talked about this yet, but I believe, according to the Supreme Court ruling, injunctions may end up, some of the parties that sued the federal government over President Trump's executive order were states. Some states sued the federal government. And I believe, I may be wrong about this, I believe that under the ruling today, it may be legal for federal judges to grant everybody to issue an order that says President Trump's ruling does not apply in this particular state because the state sued the government. So you could get a situation where it applies in certain states and not other states, even though you have federal judges ruling on it, it's a matter of federal law. Anyways, one of these articles will talk about that. Oh, really quick, let me thank a couple people. Jean-Paul Lachance, thank you for the gift memberships. I really appreciate that. Beam me up. Yes, as I said earlier, we are going to play you the President Trump press conference that he held earlier today. I'm sorry I didn't cover this live, but sometimes with these Supreme Court decisions, they're quite complex. It's hard to get a grasp on what they say, and sometimes I prefer to give it a little time so I can research it some, and even experts can look into it, and then so I get a little better idea and have maybe some articles to show you about it when we come on the air. If I come on right after, I might just have nothing at all to say about it and not know anything at all about it. So I decided to wait a little while today on this one to have a little more perspective on what this is all about. Thank you, Tanner Toxicity, who says, could it be used to limit the Second Amendment? Well, so it's not what it's doing. Let me just say this. This ruling today is limiting the ability of a judge to issue an order saying that a presidential proposed policy cannot apply anywhere in the country, because the federal judge previously might say, hey, this executive order is unconstitutional, so it can't apply anywhere in the country. In some cases like that, judges will not be able to issue those orders now. But the federal judge can still rule it's unconstitutional, and the case can still make its way through the courts. So it can ultimately get to the Supreme Court, and when the Supreme Court issues a ruling on the constitutionality of it, that's it. That's going to apply to everyone. So, as I understand it, this ruling has not changed ultimately the power of the court system to review presidential policies, presidential executive orders, and policies implemented by the president, and decide on their constitutionality. But what it has done is limit a case, the type of cases where a single federal judge can say, no, that can't be used in the entire country. So I don't believe it, and it certainly doesn't give the court system power to overrule punch the Constitution. So again, it's about whether a federal judge can look at a presidential policy, say it's unconstitutional, and say, well, because of that, nobody right now in the country, this cannot be applied anywhere in the country. So that's specifically what it's saying. But even, it's not saying, it's saying in some cases a federal judge can no longer do that. But even in such a case, the case could eventually get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will issue a ruling, which I'm guessing will happen for birthright citizenship, and it'll apply to the whole country no matter what it is. I hope that answers your question, Tanner Toxicity. Thank you to Crazy Yoda, who says, I think it should be on a case-by-case basis. Make your case, and if it persuades a judge in your favor, good on them. Now, so what Crazy Yoda is saying is that anybody who wants to challenge one of these executive orders and have it not apply to them because they think it's unconstitutional should sue. Now, an argument against that is that, well, if an order is deemed unconstitutional by a judge, is the only way somebody should be able to get relief from that order to have to file a lawsuit? Like every citizen in the country who wants release from it has to file their own lawsuit. Now, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but there's this. That's part of this too. Is to how much should somebody? Should people all across the country have to file lawsuits against a presidential policy they think is unconstitutional if they want relief for it, or is it practical to expect people to be able to do that or to have to do that? But I'm not an expert on this issue. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying there's that kind of viewpoint out there too. We'll talk about it. Hey, thanks also to J.K. Lloyd. I appreciate it. Thank you, J.K. Lloyd. And History is Mystery. Thank you. And also the Gaming Murph. The Gaming Murph believes that the Supreme Court will rule on birth.
All right, this is what I was hoping for to find, was a place where I could just stop for a second and like everyone gets like replenished, so I don't gotta like fucking burn up any more of my shit. This way everyone will have full health and full magic and all that shit to keep going. Kind of wish before I came in here I had more supplies, but this does help out some.
Response on the internet that said they hadn't. It's making its way through the court. There are various lawsuits against President.
Dude, I don't know how long this thing takes to beat, and I'm not even sure like how far along I'm in it.
Make their way to Supreme Court, but I don't believe it has made their way yet. But I may be wrong about this. I'll try to find out more. Thank you to.
Actually, I keep fucking with the sound. Like I added the game sound to it, and I moved some of the video around. And I know I started off, everything was on fucking mute because I didn't have it on the right thing. And now I got my microphone on one setting to where I hear the echo in my ears. But
let's get into some more about it.
If I try to fuck with it, I know I'm gonna mess up, and I'm just gonna end up muting myself somehow.
What the Supreme Court's ruling means from birthright citizenship.
So hold on, man. Let me just try something real quick.
Issued an executive order at the start of this term, which,
all right, let me see if this works.
Basically, if a baby is born on U.S. soil, they no longer are automatically a citizen if
do I hear myself?
Neither of their parents is a citizen or is here permanently legally. So, for example, if two people here illegally.
All right, I figured it out now. Basically, I have to turn the audio monitoring off for the microphone. Because I was worried as I did that. That's why I had all the settings on earlier, and that's why everything was on mute for like 5 minutes before I realized it. But I could have this on off, and you could still hear it. So I no longer am I hearing the echo in my fucking ears. Alright. Sorry. Turn this guy down. What else should have been fucking rambling there. But yeah, I also made an intro too, and I think when I played it earlier, I think I kind of fucked up and it didn't have no sound to it. So hold on one second here. All right, hold on, everybody, just hold on. All right, I'm gonna try to play this real quick. Hold on. Just bear with me here real quick. Let's see if this works. All right, I think that worked. Yeah, I mean every time I do this is my seventh time doing this video games thing, and every time I try to make it a little bit better than before. It's still this is all still I'm just kind of learning all this shit as I go. That's why I don't even care if there's like one person here or two people. It really doesn't matter. This is really just a big kind of learning experience basically. And yeah, eventually I'll get it all down, figure all the kinks out.
We have no money for that. We have no money for the border. We have no money for so many things. But if the Democrats, it'll be interesting to see if we get any Democrat votes. We should. If I were a Democrat, I would absolutely, maybe Fetterman, because he seems to be the most sensible one lately. If I were a Democrat, I would vote for this bill all day long because it's tax cuts and so many other things that are common sense. They're basic things. I think they're doing fine. The parliamentarian's been a little difficult, and I would say that I disagree with the parliamentarian on some things, and on other ways he's been fine. But we'll have to see. It's a big issue. I will tell you this: if that bill doesn't pass, the country will get a 68% tax increase. So think of this: you're a Democrat and you vote against it. That means you're voting in favor, because essentially you're voting in favor of the largest tax hike in the history of our country. And you can't do that. In addition, we're cutting costs by $1.7 trillion, and it won't affect anybody. It's just fraud, waste, and abuse.
Mr. President, Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it.
Oh.
What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this.
But Mr.
Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars from China and a lot of other countries. We took in, I had a call from somebody in the House and a high official. Sir, we have a problem. We don't know what to do. The books are a mess. I said, what do you mean by the books? The books, the money coming in. It's so terrible. I figured, oh boy, what's this? I don't like this question. I said, so what seems, there's so much money coming in, and there must be some kind of an accounting mistake, because we have hundreds of billions of dollars more money than we thought. I said, do me a favor, go check call me back. You have to call me back. Check the tariff column. Calls me back 2 hours later, says, you're right. We took in $88 billion in tariffs. They have so much money coming in. But more important than the money coming in, we have companies coming in, factories coming in, auto plants being built. AI is being built here instead of being built all over Europe and Asia. We have all of it. We have over $15 trillion, just about, Scott. I think we're right about that number. We went to Saudi Arabia. We went to Qatar. We went to UAE. Very smart people, very smart leaders, great leaders. And we took in $5.1 trillion just there without the tariffs. I mean, they also liked a thing called November 5th, November 6th, and November 7th. That was a very good little period of time. It's called the presidential election. You know, you used to have one-day election. Now you have it go over. But even if you just took that little period, because it was pretty obvious it was going to be a landslide. And they like that, but they love the tariffs. I had Texas Instruments come in the other day, big company, and he said, we're putting in $60 billion into new plants and new equipment, new everything. Sir, you're going to keep the tariffs, aren't you? Because if I ever took the tariffs off, and we are going to absolutely keep it. And they're worried that somebody that, like this communist from New York, someday gets elected. I can't believe that's happening. That's a terrible thing for our country, by the way. He's a communist. We're going to go to a communistic state. That's so bad for New York. But the rest of the country is revolting against it. But if somebody got elected, they're afraid that if this was taken off, well, we're going to guarantee it's never going to be taken off. And again, we're taking in think of this, hundreds of billions of dollars. And they were all confused because they'd never seen this before. You know, it's always the other way. We don't have enough money. So much money is coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen. But most importantly, we have factories being built, car plants being built, companies moving to our country like never before. If you look at 15
Good night, Abe.
That's only in a few months. You know, I haven't been here that long. The presidents, like the last one, was a disaster. He's the worst president in the history of our country, by the way. What he did on our border can never, ever be forgotten. To me, that's the worst of all the things. And he's done some terrible things, grossly incompetent. Nobody knew it was him because I don't think it was him. I think it was whoever was controlling the auto pen. But our country is doing great. And those leaders and other leaders are just left, as you know, a large group of the most highly respected people. And that includes big countries. When you look at Germany and France and Spain, although Spain didn't come through, but they will. By the way, guaranteed they will. That was the only country that sort of tried to hold back on putting up the money. But just so you know, they said, it's unbelievable what's happened to the USA. You were a dead country. We didn't respect the country, the leader. You were dead as a doornail. One said to me, you went from being a dead country, you are right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. The whole world is talking about the USA, and everybody wants a part of it, and they're pouring into our country, and you're going to see those numbers. Thank you for that question. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question about trade. Secretary Bessent has said that he hopes tariff deals with major partners will be done by Labor Day. So if some deals are not done by your July 9th deadline, will some countries' tariffs go back up, or will they stay where they are?
Well, there are some countries that are used to ripping us off, to be honest with you. And I don't want to name them, but you sort of can name them. And they're so used to just, taking it billions and billions of, look, we had a trade deficit of more than $1 trillion. Think of a trillion, a trade deficit. That's because nobody cared. We cared a lot when, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariff. We had the greatest economy in history up until now. I think we're going to blow it away. But during my time, and especially prior to COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to blow it away now based on the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But some countries are very angry because they've been ripping us off for years. They've been making billions and billions of dollars. There was nobody to negotiate with. They could do whatever they want. They charged us tariffs, by the way, at numbers that we've never seen before. And we ended up losing much more than $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year on trade. And now they're being met with a force that's far greater than them, and they don't like it. So they're upset because instead of making, $5 billion, they're going to break even. Or they'll make a little bit. I want to be nice. They'll make a little bit. Or we'll make a little bit. It's a big difference. Yeah, please go. Go ahead. Red dress.
2020 election, is there any more information on the special prosecutor? So many Americans still have questions about the 2020 election. And speaking of rogue judges, would you consider appointing somebody at DOJ maybe to investigate the judges that allowed for the political persecution of you, your family, and your supporters during the Biden administration?
I love you. Who are you?
I'm Kara from Lindell TV.
Well, it's just a very nice question. And it's not a setup. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate that question. All I can say is we're not here for that. I hope so. I hope they're doing the thing because that election was rigged and stolen, and we can't allow that to happen. You know, a lot of people tell me, sir, you just won the greatest election in the history of our country. You won at numbers that won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything. Sir, go on with your life. And many people that say that, good people, friends of mine, then you have people that say that same thing, go on with your life, but you have to find out what happened because you can't let that happen again. Look at what this lunatic did. Look at what he did. He opened our borders to people that were murderers, 11,888 to be exact, murderers, and we've captured many of those murderers, and we're bringing them back, or some of them are so dangerous that we don't even want to bring them back. We're afraid they're going to try and come back in. But he allowed people to come into this country, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, that's a mental institution on steroids, people from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers, people, jails being emptied out into our country. Venezuela emptied out almost its entire prison population into our country. But I don't want to blame them. Many countries have done that. The Congo, you know, we have a great press conference coming up later, and it's the Congo and Rwanda. You know, they were fighting for years, and it was machetes, it was vicious, it was as vicious, people's heads being chopped off. And I have a man who's very good in that part of the world, very smart, and put them together. And we're signing a peace treaty today. First time in many years they're going to have peace. And it's a big deal. You know, we talk about Russia, and we're working that one. President Putin called up and he said, I'd love to help you with Iran. I said, do me a favor. I'll handle Iran. Help me with Russia. We got to get that one settled. And I think something's going to happen there. But we did some great work. India and Pakistan. That was going to be maybe nuclear. We did that. We did a lot of work. I don't know if there's ever been a president that's done much more. Serbia, Kosovo was going to go at it. Going to be a big war. I said, you go at it. There's no trade with the United States. They said, well, maybe we won't go at it. That's what happened with India and Pakistan. I was negotiating with both of them, and I said to Scott, I said to Howard, cancel all deals with India and Pakistan. They're not trading with us because they're in a war. They called back, what do we do? I said, look, you want to have trade with the United States, it's great. But you want to go and start using nuclear weapons on each other? We're not going to allow that. And they both agreed. Both have great leaders. They both agreed not to do it. So we did a lot, but I appreciate that question.
Sir, on peace deals, can I follow up with you? Sir, can I follow up on peace deals?
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Please,
Mr.
Orange.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. I was just speaking with Senator Ron Johnson on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and he says he really wants to get to yes for you and get this accomplished.
He does. He's a good man.
But he also said that he needs more time, and he is not certain that the July 4th deadline is
Well,
possible.
then he's not such a good man.
Because there's too much work to
No,
do.
he's a good man. Ron
How
Johnson's
important-
doing a good job. He's very committed. Every Republican senator is committed. And, you know, you could have a couple of grandstanders, in all fairness. You could have somebody else. And it's very dangerous because our country would go from being the most successful country in the world to who knows what happens with a 68%, think of it, 68% tax increase. That was given by the Democrats because they like high taxes. I don't know what happened. You know, all my life, I'd grow up and I'd watch politicians talking. I'd say, oh, that's fun. And they were always saying, we will cut your taxes. We will cut your tax. I never heard it. They say, we will raise your taxes. And they elect people like this guy in New York that maybe has a chance. I find it hard to believe, but he maybe has a chance. They want to raise your taxes. So they want to see a 68% tax increase. That's more money than anybody could afford. You'd go into a depression if that ever happened. So I think there's a lot of pressure.
I don't know what Big Don is rambling out again, but I got a feeling whatever's behind this door is probably going to be another fucking battle. Let's see what this guy. Let's see what this guy has to say.
The problem we have is that it's a great bill. It's a popular bill, but we'll get no Democrats only because they don't want to vote for Trump. If that bill was their bill, oh, they would be so happy. It's so great for our military. It's great for everything. And they would normally vote, but because their hatred of Trump, they have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before. And instead of voting for a tax cut, they're voting for a tax increase of 68%. They're voting to destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, and destroy Medicaid. And we're voting to make them perfect and to make them better, make them stronger and better. They're going to destroy Medicaid, and they're going to destroy Medicare, and Social Security will follow. If you vote for the Democrats, you're dead on those three things.
Sir,
Thank you, Mr. President. On a related subject, many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures. And these votes are in some cases needed to pass. Are you open to the idea of pulling away from your personal crypto ventures just for the next few years if that helps get these crypto bills passed in the next few months?
Well, it's a very funny thing, crypto. So I became a fan of crypto, and to me it's an industry. I view it as an industry, and I'm president. And if we didn't have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China. China would love to. And we've dominated that industry. It's a big industry, by the way. In fact, when the stock market went down recently, crypto and Bitcoin and all of that went down much less than anybody else as a group. And we've created a very powerful industry, and that's much more important than anything that we invest in. We invest in it, but really that was an industry that wasn't doing particularly well. I got involved with it a couple of years ago, and before the second term. I got involved before I decided to run. I only decided to run because I saw what was happening, and Biden was incompetent, and the administration was crooked and incompetent. And I was in Bitcoin then, not knowing if I was going to do it a third time. So it's become amazing. I mean, it's the jobs that it produces. And I notice more and more you pay in Bitcoin. I mean, people are saying it takes a lot of pressure off the dollar. And it's a great thing for our country. So I don't care about investing. You know, I have kids, and they invest in different things. They do believe in it. But I'm president, and what I did do there is build an industry that's very important. And you know, if we didn't have it, China would. Okay.
Sir, Mr. President,
Go ahead. With the glasses, gentlemen. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, are you going to cut funds in the sanctuary states, like for instance California, that keep supporting illegal immigration, and then these people work on?
Yeah, we're giving them a hard time.
And also, in a foreign policy question.
I mean, they don't have a governor in California. They have a man that wants to give away everything to people that nobody's seen before. If we didn't go into Los Angeles with the military, which did a fantastic job, but if we didn't go into Los Angeles bringing in the National Guard, I would have brought the military if it was necessary, because you have to. We have the right to. That was another thing upheld by the Supreme Court. But if we didn't go in with the National Guard and be strong and tough, you wouldn't maybe have Los Angeles. It would be like the rest of California, the rest of Los Angeles. They lost 25,000 houses in a fire. They should have lost none. You know, I sent the water down. I had to break into their water supply because they just refused to do it. They're crazy. There's something wrong with them. They have plenty of water. They don't have droughts or anything. They have plenty. We let it come down from the Pacific Northwest. They routed all the water out into the Pacific Ocean for environmental reasons, okay? And now you have 25,000 houses, none of which would have burned down if you had the water. They didn't have water. They didn't have water for the fire pumps. They didn't have water in the sprinkler systems that people put in. So the answer is we're going to work with governors. We're going to work with radical left Democrats and Democrats, and we're going to make it good for everybody. We'll have to stop the crime in those, or in the case of the cities, I think I can say just about all cities with heavy crime are run by Democrats. Go ahead.
11 lies.
Yeah, with the glasses.
I'm with you.
Go ahead, yes. Yeah, go, no, the man behind you, yeah, please.
President Trump, Anthony Marshak from Amphibia, Lebanon. I want to ask you regarding the threats posed by Iran's allies and proxies operating in the U.S., they were threatening your life. So what do you say about that? And regarding the Lebanon, because Hezbollah is as well part of Iran's allies, is there any time frame in Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Lebanon is a great place with brilliant people. You know, it was known for the professors and doctors and had an incredible history. And hopefully we can bring it back again. I just appointed a friend of mine who's Lebanese, and I didn't know he was Lebanese. I've known him for 20 years. Very, very successful man. And
what the fuck is going on here? Fucking walls shrinking in. What the hell's gonna? The hell are they gonna do? Fucking. Oh my god, what the fuck was that? Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, thanks for the assist, I guess. Nice knowing you two.
Different professions you have. Race car drivers, as an example. 1/10 of 1% die. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. That's not a lot, but it's people die. When you're president, it's about 5%. If somebody would have told me that, maybe I wouldn't have run. Okay? This is a very dangerous profession. Yeah, please. By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? Or not? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it. Go ahead.
On Iran.
You tell me when it gets boring. Okay?
If Iran.
Are you from Iran?
No, I'm not from Iran. I'm from the UK. But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
Had any
Turned out to be unbelievable. But, you know, our incredible flyers and I call them the shots. These guys are unbelievable. Think from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that. And just bomb after bomb going deeper, deeper, blowing up. Incredible, incredible thing. I don't know if you heard the general. He was very impressive. Raisin Cane. You know, he's the one that beat ISIS for me. And he did it in a matter of weeks. And I was told it was going to take 4 or 5 years. And when I got this job, I always said, if I get this job, I'm going to put that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Dan Kane, and he, when I heard his name was Raisin, his nickname is Raisin Cane. I said, you got to be kidding. So I liked him right from the beginning. But he knocked out ISIS in a time that nobody ever thought possible. And when this attack was completed and so successful, I said, now I know how you knocked out ISIS so quickly. But we have the best people, we have the best equipment in the world. You know, I rebuilt the military during my 4 years, during my other term. We have the best equipment in the world. The problem is we gave away, you know, a lot of it, but small relatively speaking. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan. Shouldn't have happened. That just shows how incompetent they were. They gave all that equipment away, billions and billions of dollars worth. Shouldn't have happened, but that was small compared to what we have. Now we have a great military with great people. Okay. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, congratulations. A couple of very different questions. One is Rwanda, 1994. As you grew up in New York, we all knew how horrific those attacks were. Congratulations on that treaty. There are talks that perhaps...
That's going to take place today at 3 o'clock in the Oval Office. We're going to have a signing with Rwanda and the Congo. So I'm a little out of my league in that one because I didn't know too much about it. I knew one thing. They were going at it for many years and with machetes. It is one of the worst wars that anyone's ever seen. And I just happened to have somebody that was able to get it settled. I mean, just a brilliant person who is very comfortable in that part of the world. It's a very dangerous part of the world. I said, are you uncomfortable there? People are being killed. School children are being raided and killed. And I don't even want to say how, but as viciously as I've ever heard. Are you uncomfortable? No, that's the part of the world that I know. Very comfortable. was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to. Look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House, and they're so honored. And so we're going to give them a great big reception. But that's after many years of fighting. It's a great thing. That's at 3 o'clock, I believe.
Sir, are you concerned at all about secret nuclear sites in Iran? You talked about maybe just
secret nuclear site?
Yes, there might be some that
Not really. Can I tell you? They're exhausted. And Israel's exhausted too. And I dealt with both of them. And they both wanted it settled, both of them. And we did a great job, but they're exhausted. The last thing they're thinking about right now is nuclear. You know what they're thinking of? They're thinking about tomorrow, trying to live. It's such a mess. It's such a mess. The place was bombed to hell. And no, I'm not worried about it at all. And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement.
Well, that was a lot of dialogue there. So now I gotta go grab the crystal from the town of Turan in the northwest in exchange for Lucy's life. And that way I get what I want and the bad guys get what they want. Now, I don't think that's obviously going to happen, but it should be interesting. I'm going to let Donnie ramble here for a minute, and I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Howe with NTD Research Media with the Pastimes. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here
It's a good group.
in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we haven't had
Probably.
this in, for the past
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other
to
than
talk to us.
Caroline's done a great job.
Yes, sure.
You're referring to the past administration,
Yes,
not to
yes.
Caroline, right?
Yes. Back to the ruling today, if you don't mind. So you have always talked about winning for the American people.
Right.
How do you think today's ruling will enable you to further deliver for American families and workers across the country, not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to trade, energy? What actions are you most eager to move forward
Well, I
with
think
now?
taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous. This is such a big day. This is such a big day. It's like it's sort of sad because we're doing the signing at 3 o'clock, and this may very well dominate the signing of a big war that was going on and really affecting the continent of. Think of it, the entire continent of Africa was being affected, and we're settling that war today, and this will probably be a headline. But this is a very big moment, and it gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency. And it only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't take it takes bad power, sick power, and unfair power. And it's really going to be, this is a very monumental decision. Yeah, please.
President, thanks very much. On July 9th, is that July 9th date set for tariffs to snap
No.
back? Or could there be a...
We can do whatever we want. We could extend it. We could make it shorter. I'd like to make it shorter. I'd like to just send letters out to everybody. Congratulations, you're paying 25%. He doesn't want, he's a much nicer person than I am. Go ahead, you finish it up?
Considering for the Federal Reserve then, and are you speeding up that process? I see Secretary...
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. I mean, I have a list of things. We're like 38 on the list. We pay, Cameroon, different places are paying the same as us. Because, you have somebody sets a rate at 4% or 4.5%. It's hard to go out and say we should be paying 1% when you have your so-called experts doing it. And the sad part is, as per the question that you asked about tariffs, we've had the tariffs and we have less inflation than we had before. What we have is a hell of a lot more money, a hell of a lot more income, and we shouldn't be paying a rate like that. In other words, when we pay a rate, I'll tell you, each point is the equivalent of $300 billion. So if we had it down 3 points, because I think we should be at 1, you have Switzerland is at 0.25. In other words, 25% of 1%. And they're the number 1 right now. But we should be the number 1. And soon you're going to have, I think, you're going to have where the people will pay will pay like we had a few years ago. where you put up money, you loan money, and I mean, you actually, instead of paying, you get paid. I love that. I don't know if it's any good, but I love it, where you put up money and you get paid. But we should be in a category, so we should be at the top of the list, not toward the bottom of the list. But we have a man who's not a smart man, and he probably has Trump derangement syndrome. And he's just not a smart person. What he's doing, though, he's hurting us for years to come. Because if we borrow money at 2 points higher than we should be paying, that's $600 billion. Wouldn't you say those numbers are about right, Scott? So it's 2 points would be about 600, actually more than that, but about $600 billion, all because the guy doesn't want to lower the rates. He is doing the service, a very disservice. And then he goes up and talks about, I'd like to see costs come down. You know, he gets up and he does his little thing for 5 minutes, and he goes out and he goes back to the beach. He goes, I'd like to see costs come down. Well, he could lower the interest cost by $900 billion a year. All he has to do is lower rates. And everybody's saying, I was watching some of the business shows today, and they're saying, you know, Trump's right. He should really be cutting. The country's doing well. We have no inflation. Now, despite him, we're doing great. But if we got the rates down, we would be a rocket ship. So I think that'll be it. And I just want to thank everybody. This is a really big day. We've had a big week. You know, we've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous. Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And then I want to give credit to a lot of people, most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over. But I just want to compliment them. Incredible, the general and all of his generals. Pete Hegseth was great. They were all, and now I want to compliment Pam. A lot of genius went into this. You know, people, if you don't say it exactly right, if the Supreme Court doesn't get it because it's incorrectly spoken about, and that happens. A lot of cases are lost because they don't say the right words. But I want to correct. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. I may change my mind about that. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll have to call and say I was only kidding. She's going to go down as a great attorney general. This was a tremendous win, and we've had.
Opinion was that the viewers wanted to keep it playing. So I let it run so you could hear the rest of it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that Supreme Court ruling. We did a bunch of coverage of it earlier before the press conference. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it right now. We'll take a few more comments on the air. But if you missed the coverage, you can go back and rewind it from the beginning. So we'll do a quick summary of what's going on. I have a couple quick things to say about it, and also I want to take a few more comments about it. But the basic idea of what happened is hold on. The basic idea of what happened is, hold on a second here. Oops. That the Supreme Court has ruled that in nationwide injunctions, that a lot of nationwide injunctions where a federal judge would say of a president's policy, that policy is unconstitutional, therefore we're freezing the policy across the country, it can't be applied anywhere in the country while the case is making its way through the courts. That's happened a bunch under President Trump, also happened a number of times under President Biden and other recent presidents, I believe. where you know, a president will issue an executive order, and then soon after a district judge will say, nope, you can't do that anywhere in the country because we believe it's going to be ruled unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court has said that today that those kind of injunctions are not constitutional because district judges were exceeding their constitutional powers, and they didn't actually have the power to freeze the policy for the whole country. Now, it's not, the ruling was not that there can never be a nationwide injunction. I'm not a legal expert, but I do know that it only applies to certain cases of these injunctions. But there were several injunctions, I believe 3 different ones, that three different judges had ruled that President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order, where that order said that you have that if you have a child who's born on U.S. soil, they are if neither parent is a citizen or a permanent resident, that child is not an American citizen. So before President Trump's executive order for over 100 years, it's been understood that the Constitution guarantees that any child born on American soil, except for some exceptions like if the parents are diplomats, but basically any child born on American soil by virtue of that becomes a citizen, even if the parents are here illegally. And President Trump issued this executive order back in January that said no, if neither parent is here legally, is neither parent is a citizen or a permanent resident, they are a legal permanent resident, the child is not an American citizen. So he issues that order, and 3 different judges, I believe, issued nationwide injunctions that said, nope, we believe that policy is unconstitutional. We're therefore going to freeze it for the entire country as the case makes its way through the courts. And the Supreme Court today said that all of those injunctions against the birthright citizenship policy, those were all unconstitutional injunctions. The judges actually didn't have the right to issue those injunctions. So now we could have a case where the Supreme Court did not rule on the executive order. They did not rule on whether President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order is unconstitutional. They're maybe going to do so next year. I know Pam Bondi said they're going to rule in October. I don't believe the Supreme Court has said firmly that they're going to rule in October, but they very well may do it in the next session. But for now, those nationwide injunctions against this executive order has gone away. So as a result, we could have a case starting in 30 days from now. It could be the case in the United States that in some states, President Trump's executive order about birthright citizenship goes into an effect, and in other states it doesn't. We could have a situation 30 days from now where if a baby is born to, say, 2 people in the country illegally, that baby, whether that baby is a citizen, might depend on which state they're born in. Now, it won't keep going like that because eventually, probably there's going to be a Supreme Court ruling that settles the question for everybody once and for all. But until there is such a ruling, until it does make its way through the court system, we could have a case where in certain parts of the country, a baby born in one part of the country will be a citizen, a baby born in another part of the country will not be a citizen. So that could happen. And this nationwide injunctions ruling applies to injunctions about other presidential policies as well. But there are some, it gets quite complex because there still could be nationwide injunctions that are applied to Trump's executive order. And you might say, well, how could that be? Didn't the Supreme Court today say there can be no nationwide injunctions? No, they said there can be no nationwide injunctions in certain cases. So, for example, one way there can be a nationwide injunction that's constitutional is if there's a class action lawsuit. I know this sounds kind of very, very technical, but for example, The Economist had an article about this, and they talked about this, and they said a class action lawsuit is where one or several named plaintiffs or an organization sues on behalf of similarly situated plaintiffs across America. So it's the people or organizations that file the lawsuit. They say, well, we're filing the lawsuit on behalf of ourselves and lots of other people like us across the country. So it's a class action lawsuit. For example, the class might be all pregnant women without legal status. And if there is such a lawsuit, my understanding is that if there is such a lawsuit and it comes out and the judge in such a lawsuit then issues a nationwide injunction against the executive order, then the ruling today doesn't impact that kind of nationwide injunction. And the ruling doesn't say that a judge can't do that in that kind of case. Okay, so there's that. And also another way that there still could be a nationwide injunction against President Trump's executive order even after today is, and this is something talked about by The Economist in their article today. They said a state could argue that the only type of injunction that eases their burden is one that blocks the executive order nationwide. So I think 22 different states filed lawsuits against Trump's executive order. And how the Economist explains it, they say that the cost and administrative burden of tracking the immigration status of babies traveling around the country could make anything less than a comprehensive bar on Mr. Trump's policy unworkable for the 22 states seeking relief. So I guess what the states are saying, if I understand this right, is there are 22 states, I believe. So say you're a state and you filed suit against Trump's executive order, and the judge has said, yes, you're right, state. You're right. Trump's executive order is constitutional. Is unconstitutional. I think I can't make a nationwide injunction, but I can say that in your state, his executive order will not apply. Well, that means, let me think this through. If a baby is born in that state, is the idea that if a baby comes to the state, they have to now figure out. The idea is that it's going to be difficult for that state to function if other states have different policies on whether a baby becomes a citizen or not. I think that's the overall issue. And so the way they put it in The Economist is the cost and administrative burden of tracking the immigration status of babies traveling around the country. So I guess the idea is if a baby is brought to your state, it might be too much of a burden for states to have to figure out if those babies are citizens or not, because you got to figure out what state they were born in, maybe. But the overall point is a judge could, in theory, decide that the only way, if a state has sued over this, over President Trump's executive order, and the state and a district judge feels that state, they've made a good case, the district judge may decide, well, the only way to really make things right for this state is to have it banned across the country. Because otherwise, if it's not banned across the country, if this executive order goes into place in some parts of the country, it's just going to make things too difficult for that state. Even if the executive order is not in force in that state, practically speaking, it'll just make things too difficult. Therefore, I announce that the injunction applies to the entire country. There could be a case like that. So I know it's confusing, but my point is there are these alternate ways in which a judge might issue a nationwide injunction against Trump's executive order on birthrights to citizenship or one of his other policies. There are a number of ways, like in a class action lawsuit or this other way I just talked about, which are not forbidden by the Supreme Court ruling today, if that makes sense. This Supreme Court ruling does not say that there are no constitutional nationwide injunctions against the president's policies. They just say a bunch of them that have been considered constitutional are no longer constitutional, including the ones that so far have been issued against the birthright citizenship executive order. As confusing as it all sounds, I've been trying to make it as simple as possible, but it's just not simple. Let's hear, blah, 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 blah. And, these nationwide injunctions by particular judges have been a big topic of debate in some part, among some.
That's odd. His item of defense is this wooden, whatever the fuck. It's actually a lot more powerful than a crossbow. Which was a fucking waste of money to see that.
Country, and maybe there's certain judges who are pro-Democrat or pro-Republican, and all you got to do is go to that particular judge, and if they issue it, then it applies to the entire country. But somebody else might say, well, what happens now if you have a president come in and they pass and the president issues an executive order that's obviously unconstitutional? Does every single person or every single party affected by that have to file their own lawsuit so that new presidential policy doesn't apply to them? If it's obviously unconstitutional, can't a judge just say, well, we're gonna pause it for the entire country while it's making way for the courts? Or does every single in the time before the courts have issued a final ruling on it, does the president just get to impose that policy on a bunch of the country? So there's arguments on both sides. It's a controversial topic, but that's just a little bit of an overview, and I know it's complex, and I am not a legal expert. I'm just trying to give you the basic sense of what's at stake here. All right, I'm going to take a few. Oh, Callie Voltaire, who is a legal expert, she says that class action lawyers are winning big today because there's going to be a lot more class action lawsuits filed, I guess you're saying. Let's see here. And I do have pinned in the chat the actual ruling with both the Supreme Court majority ruling and the dissent by Justice Sotomayor. I think there might be multiple ruling documents and dissent documents in there, but the file is there. You can read it. It might seem pretty technical because it is, but I do have it pinned in the chat for you. All right, so let me read some of your comments on this, and I wish I had the expertise in the background to get into this more technically, but I don't. And it's confusing, I know. But trying to just give you the basic idea. Hopefully you've gotten some sort of basic idea of what's at stake here. But there are a number of Trump policies that have been, that judges have issued nationwide injunctions against so far in the last few months, which have prevented them from being put into effect. And now that a number of these nationwide injunctions have been struck down, it could be the case that some of these policies are actually put into place, even in some.
Well, that was a very bad idea.
Perhaps.
Very bad idea. Very bad idea that was. All right, let's run that back.
So maybe in the future there's a Democratic president, and it makes it harder for judges to issue nationwide injunctions against the Democratic president's policies. Okay, let me take some comments here. Sorry, I know it's quite complex. Just Aussie says, let the forum shopping begin. Well, forum shopping was something that was seen as encouraged by the previous nationwide injunction system, because all you had to do is find one area where the judge.
How the fuck can I land there? I can only land on grass?
Be more sympathetic to you, and you could get that judge to issue a nationwide injunction. But
Oh,
now
that's
maybe
bullshit.
will there be will there be forum shopping for districts where you might have a better shot with a class action lawsuit or something? I don't know. Maybe the forum shopping issue is still in effect. Let's see here. Audrey Burbank says it's very confusing. Yes, it is confusing. And again, I don't even understand the ins and outs of it because I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert. BLS Doom Crew says President can set an executive order.
Oh, no, there ain't nothing much going on in the news today. This guy's just rambling on and on about the Supreme Court decision earlier. I mean, he could take that and make it last like 8 fucking hours. I mean, that's what this guy does. But, no, I don't want to change my name right now. Just gonna make a quick pit stop here in this little village. See what's going on. See what they got. What the fuck am I gonna do with this? Alright, whatever. I guess that was some sort of improvement. That's cool. Ain't really much here. Let's see what's next door. Still fucking rambling.
What do you know? I've never had that situation before. There are a few social media accounts that are claiming there were some explosions in Iran. I have not seen that confirmed by any kind of news outlet that I would consider reliable on that. I checked Iranian state media. It said nothing. I checked an Israeli news account that I
Feels like this is just going to be a waste of 5,000 points.
Even if it did, so I am not aware of any kind of reporting that I would consider reliable that there's some Israeli attack going on in Iran that would break the ceasefire. If I become aware of it, I will certainly let you know. But I find the claims about it I've seen on social media, I do not find particularly reliable or well sourced at the moment. So that's what I'll say about that. If I hear it from sourcing I consider more reliable, I will certainly let you know. Let me remind you that there were several times during the past couple weeks when many social media accounts made the same claim about something going on in Iran that actually was false. So just because a few social media accounts are saying it doesn't mean it's true. If I do hear more about it and I find it reliable, I will certainly let you know. Sunset Secondary, what is it? Says, what does this really mean for lower court's power? It makes it harder for a lower court, a district court judge, to issue a nationwide injunction. They can't do it in a bunch of cases where they could before. So you will have numerous cases before where a district court judge said, I don't think this policy of a president is constitutional. The courts haven't ruled on it yet, but for now, I'm going to freeze the policy nationwide. There are a lot of cases like that where they can no longer do that. Okay, let's see here.
If I'm going like retarded or something, how the fuck come I can't get back in this goddamn thing? Oh, there we go. Alright, never mind.
Let's see I want to take a couple more comments here. Hang on one. Oh, thanks to Nicola. Nicola also, our viewer Nicola sent me an article that Politico wrote, and it talked about loopholes in the Supreme Court win today, if you call it a win for Trump. And it talked about how if somebody files a class action lawsuit against a presidential policy, in that case, a nationwide injunction is in theory possible. It talked about if a state is the one filing a lawsuit against a presidential policy, in that sort of case, there could be a nationwide injunction issued, which is legal. And they gave a third possibility too, which is if the president's policy, what is it here? If a lawsuit against a presidential policy involves a law called the Administrative Procedure Act, then in such lawsuits, nationwide injunctions are still allowed. Again, I know it's complex, but those are three different cases where nationwide injunctions would still, in theory, be allowed by district court judges. The title of that article on Politico, if you want to read it, is Trump Adversaries See Silver Linings in His, quote, Monumental Supreme Court Win. Okay, well, oh, thanks, by the way, to EJ Rod and Casual Killer for subscribing, and Jay Drabble on Twitch, thanks for your support. And also TilbTX for your support on Twitch, and Jenny Zio and Big Dog Gaming. And also shout out to Callie Voltaire for the gift memberships. That's so nice of you, Callie Voltaire. Enoch123, our member. Jenny Girl Jen, our member. Teshera2250, Jake 6262, and Susan Stater, our member as well. Thanks for your support. Wow, this stream has been longer than I thought it would be. I think it's time to wrap it up. It feels like we've just scratched the surface. We just scratched the surface, guys. Really. So, but, I mean, as I said earlier, I'm sure you can find legal experts who have social media channels who are doing deep dives on this, and I would encourage you to check those out. Maybe if I have time, I'll check them out myself. I encourage you to check them out if you want to know more. But just know it's with these Supreme Court rulings, they're complex legal rulings. Oh, thanks, Paul Tissue. I appreciate that. Okay, so I think for now we've done what we came here to do. As I tried my best. But anyways, I really appreciate you guys. Those of you who stuck around for this stream, more technical than our usual stream, a little more dry than our normal stream, but I appreciate those of you who tuned in. And a number of you have been writing in with your comments and sending me links and stuff. Thanks for that. Thanks for letting me read your comments on the air. Thanks for those of you who participated in the chat. But appreciate you tuning in. So certainly it's important. It's an important ruling that restricts the ability of district court of lower court judges to put nationwide freezes on presidential policies, but lots of complicating factors. Also, I think it's not really known how much it's going to impact things in the future, because maybe there's other ways, workarounds like the class action suits that'll start to be used more to get these kind of nationwide injunctions. So it's not like the experts even know totally how this is all going to play out in the future. It's not even clear.
Friends, here they got the silver equipment that's more valuable than what I currently have for a few of the people in my party. Problem is, I don't have enough money to buy it all that I need. So,
could be a very interesting situation if it does.
I may have to come back here again.
And not in other parts of the country. Okay, so if there's more big breaking news tonight, we'll come on the air and cover it. We cover all kinds of live breaking news here without an agenda. And you can subscribe or follow.
Looks like the news dude's all done for tonight. I'm pretty much gonna get done for tonight too. Like I said, I got the airship now, and I'm supposed to head to the northwest, to the village out there. I forget what the fuck he called it, like Tehran or something like that, I think. Who knows? And there I gotta get the crystal in exchange for Lucy's life. But we'll see how that goes. Kinda wish I had like more money. I could like buy all the other shit I need here. But we'll take a break. Save it real quick. Alright. Looks like the news is done. I think I'm done. It's been about almost 2 hours playing. Got pretty far. Not bad. Hopefully I'm at least close to being done. You never know with these fucking games, so they could go on for fucking ever. Which, I don't know, it's not bad. As long as you're having fun, I think that's all that matters. Some people probably get to a point where they're like, I don't want to. But oh well. Yeah, so I'm gonna... What the fuck? Oh, hold on, man. Let me whip these guys' ass real quick. Nope, that didn't do it. That didn't do it either? God damn. So curious now that I got the airship thing, if I should just try to fly around and explore a little bit more of the world and see what else, gather what I need for the big final fight. Take on the final boss. Oh, that don't look good. Oh. Yeah, because now I have all this other equipment out there that I could buy to help me improve myself. Do win these fucking battles, get more of the money. Some people are gonna be able to level up and whatnot. It's only gonna get worse from here. But yeah, not bad. It's a good night. Kind of slow news day, except for the like I said earlier, the Supreme Court decision on children of immigrant parents being born in America and all that other horse shit, blah blah blah. But hope everyone enjoyed it tonight. Thanks for watching. Probably do it again this weekend. No Be Down Live in the morning. There will be an OJ show a Sunday morning sometime. Check possibly 9 East. Even though I think Cardiff probably hop on that. Cardiff might do something tomorrow or during the day or something. You never know. Always hit the bell, for those guys' channel, and also like on X also, because when they go live, they'll post on there too. So if you hit like the thing to like be notified of when they post shit, it can be annoying. That's why that's why the YouTube thing, you always hit the notification for their channels, because once they go live, it'll pop up on your phone there, and you go just check it, and you hit the notify me thing, and you get like another notification when they do go live. Oh, blah 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 and all that other shit too. But thanks for watching. I'm gonna get out of here for tonight. play again sometime this weekend. But till then, everybody, let me try to see if I can hit the post. That's what they call it. All right, everybody, have a good one. Thanks for watching.